that Māori word, I don't know how to say it. Has anyone had that feeling? Anybody in the room? Because I can see it in people's eyes when they go, oh, and I work for, oh God, I'm going to have to say it, ngai tahu. So for instance, ngai tahu is a simple word. There's no way you can get around saying it, but sometimes we hear different versions. So when it comes to ngai tahu, can you please say ngai? Kōrero mai ngai. I can't hear you at all, but I'm sure you're talking. Ngai tahu. Now the tahu part is really important. It's short. It's not tahu. So ngai tahu. Kōrero mai ngai tahu. I'm hearing absolutely nothing, but I feel like it must be perfect. Ngai tahu. Kōrero mai. One more time. So if you can just remember that the tahu is short, then we're already in a winning position. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is my journey in terms of Te Reo Māori, the opportunities we have in terms of Te Reo Māori, and what it means to be a rangatira, to be a leader like every single one of you are. He pou whakairo, that is our kaupapa for today, and you know that it means a carved post, but also a leadership post. He arero whakairo. The arero is your tongue, again carved, and I've just made that a vision of what we can talk about in terms of leadership that is carved in our ancestral tongue in Te Reo Māori. That is something that I've had to try to bring into my life and to achieve because I didn't grow up with Te Reo Māori. As Kaharoa said, we both have been learning together. It's been a long journey, but it's completely enriching, and that's the most important thing that I think we need to get to. Is it's not just a chore, it's something that's going to offer you a huge amount, and it can offer you a lot in terms of your everyday mahi. So if we look at what a leader is in a Māori concept of it, rangatira, and I'd love it if we start getting to a place where we're just going to say it out loud. You can't become a better speaker without speaking. That has been clinically proven. Okay, not in the clinic, but it's been proven. So just say for me, rangatira. And then our ngai tahu dialect of it, rakatira, rakatira. So rangatira and rakatira. In some Māori words, you can break up the base words and see what is contained within them. So with rangatira, we can see ranga. Now ranga, if we can go back to the slide there, ranga means to weave together. Tira is a group of people who are united by a common purpose, like each of you are. So as you're sitting at your tables today, you're in tira. Rangatira weave the people together, and that's why they are chiefs, and that's why they are leaders, like every single one of you who join us today. So you are rangatira. You probably heard as well, we say te reo rangatira for Māori language. So that is because we believe it is the language of chiefs, and it holds so much inside it. Has these opportunities for us to look at things like this. How do we weave people together? Again, we come back to that word whakairo. Whakairo is to adorn things beautifully. So ki te whakairo is a finely woven basket. And that when you see the basket there, asks us to think about how we can do that. How are we going to bring people together with Te Reo Māori and all of its opportunities at the centre? So we're going to do some activities today. And one of the things I thought I'd like to consider with all of you is how do we put it in a context that you can easily recognize? Why is this important to your work, to your mahi? Well, when I start looking at international models, cultural intelligence is one way of talking about it. So cultural intelligence is seen as a benefit in the workplace because that means that you know yourself, you know others, and when you get to that place, then you can lead together. Then if I overlay ngai tahu values with that, it all makes sense because that's the beauty of Te Reo Māori. It's so adaptive, it relates to so many kaupapa. And I see here that when we are working with cultural intelligence, we're working with whanaungatanga, we're knowing ourselves, the people in our rōpū, knowing others and acting with manaakitanga, and we're leading together, which is rangatiratanga. We'll talk more about cultural intelligence later, but I wanted to share my story, which has been inelegant, clumsy, ugly at times, And I would have loved to have done it quietly behind the scenes with no one watching me, but that wasn't going to be my existence. And one thing I can be grateful for in that is that other people have been able to say, hey, look, she's struggling too. Hey, look, she's making an idiot of herself too. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can get to a better place. So that's why on this slide, I talk about how it takes a little bit of you bringing yourself to the game. Ki te pirangi koe, ki ngā kai o te moana, me māku koe. So if you want the foods of the ocean, you're going to have to get wet. So today and in these next couple of days, you're jumping in the ocean and you're looking at the opportunities that you have for yourself. When it comes to who I am, ara oku tupuna. So you can see there, Wairua. Anyone been to Little River, the center of the universe? Wairua? Ngai, kia ora. So you probably know these images well. Ko taku whenua tā ngai ngai tērā. This is where I come from, where I am centered. And I believe that I descend from these women because they're wearing heels. And that is an āhuatanga whakaheke. It's just something that comes out. So you will see that is definitely a momo. So these are our people, and you can see a 40-year gap. So just a really particularly accurate date. But those are us. Oku taua, oku kuia. Ki te kōrero au mō oku tupuna, I'm going to talk about my ancestral lines, and only as far back as the treaty. I know in saying only, some people would say, that was quite a while ago. For instance, this year, 2021, has been about 17 years, if you ask me. But when we talk about our connections and our tupuna, for us as Māori, our connection to tupuna is different. When I talk about my paua, iwiko, who you can see there on the screen, I might as well be talking about my grandfather, because that's how we feel connected. And can everyone just have a moment? If you look at this screen, does that look like kaharoa or what? Turn to the side, please, kaharoa. There is something going on here. What a lovely profile, don't you think? Got a little bit of iwiko going on there. Can you see the resemblance? I know, it's amazing, isn't it? So that is my tupuna, who signed the treaty at Akaroa, 1840 in May. And his daughter, some say niece, but daughter is Puai Tuhaiwa. You probably heard of the Blue Book when it comes to the Ngaitahu Kaumātua, and Puai is in there, and she married James Robinson Clough. Now, when I was at school, I was taught about James Robinson Clough because he was the first settler to row down the Avon. And I think about that moment and the fact that I was taught about one of my tupuna, James Robinson Clough, but there was no mention of his wife, Puai, and of all of us who descend from that line. And that gives us an insight into what has been given value, what has been given place and importance in our history. So although with my aroha for my tupuna, James Robinson Clough, I can celebrate that, I can also see the gap and I can see the opportunity and what we learn and what we value. So then from Puai and James Robinson Clough, we come to George Teotsi Robinson, known as a very big, strong man. So again, kaharoa, this does seem like it's a big connection to you as well. And from George, we come down to Tom Wharaki Robinson. You can see there, he's in his rugby gears because that's where the prowess comes from. As Paua Tom actually said to Melody Robinson, my whanaunga, he goes, wouldn't you know, the first of my mokopuna to be good at rugby and be an All Black was one of the girls. Nah. But Piri Wepu can probably come a little bit in there in terms of acclaim. From Paua Tom, we come to my Paua Montero, who I believe some of you will know and will remember. You'll recognize that stance. You'll recognize probably even the outfit, te aho tanatu, ko tōku paua tērā. He ke rawa mai ki tōku papa. That's my dad, James Daniels, and there's probably a few people going, oh, okay, right, yeah, I'm saying who to who. Yes, oh, James. Oh, well, she might be okay. Anyway, come. And so that is 7 generations. And if we look at those names, Iwiko, Puai, Teotsi, Tom could speak Māori, katahi ka ngaro, te reo Māori roto i tō mātou whānau. And as We say so famously in Ngāi Tahu, it takes one generation to lose the language, but 3 to get it back. So Tom was a speaker, and my paua Monty had enough to get by. But my dad, James, is definitely at 66. Yes, I'll keep on saying his name because I know, sorry, his age. I know he doesn't enjoy that. So at 66, that has been a big journey for my papa, and not an easy one. It's a source of regret, and I'd even say whakama, shame for him, that he's in some positions where it would be helpful for him to be able to have more fluency in te reo Māori. But then you should see his pride at his mokopuna, Hawaiki, Kurawaka, and Maiana, these names that we reclaim as part of restating who we are and experiencing our full selves as Māori and Pākehā. And his sukibaba tears are beautiful because they say that he can see that the regeneration is happening. Nō reira ka kōrero au mō taku aku I te reo. When I'm talking about Māori language and where it sits in all of us, we can't forget historically what impacts us. So when Māori language was banned from New Zealand schools, it was violently. So my kuia there, who some of you will know, and I hope that you have a moment where you remember her if you did know her, and you can probably share with us, feel free to share with me any memories you have of them, because they're now both not with us anymore, ko whetū rangitia, and they are now in the stars. But Kwikwi was a native speaker. She went to Whakarewarewa school. She would have started in 1935, and as you could see there, te reo Māori was still banned. So tamariki were beaten for speaking Māori. They were not allowed to speak Māori inside the school, and that has a huge impact on a child who grows up to be a parent, who grows up to be a grandparent. And any of you who are parents will understand why you want to protect your children. And what that did was it told them that te reo Māori does not have the status of English, is not allowed, is something to be controlled, and is not something to be proud of. So of course, in an act of protection, a lot of those parents and grandparents didn't teach their children te reo Māori, and it buried a shame inside them and what we now understand to be forms of trauma around our language. So when we start to learn Māori, sometimes there's really inconvenient feelings of trauma that aren't necessarily even ours pop up. And some of you may be able to relate to the fact that it's almost like you're going to say the word, but it's being grabbed from your throat. I used to feel like I could hear something behind a closed door, and I knew that somewhere in my wairua, in my soul, I did understand that language. It was part of me, but I was trying to open this big heavy door, and I thought one day maybe it would just come flying open, but like love is an open door, but it never did. It was just this slow dragging out. Some people have amazing overnight success, annoying people like my husband. He basically woke up one morning and he saw the Matrix and he starts speaking Māori and putting the E's and the keys everywhere he needs to go. But he sucks. He's very unusual, let's put it that way.
We've got that on video.
Yes, I say it with such love. So that is me in an awesome outfit, I'm sure you'll agree. Very 1996 right there. And I think we are at Rapaki actually. And I'm so grateful. Oh, it makes me emotional to think about the tautoko that I've had from Ngāi Tahu in the vision for ko tahi mano kaika, ko tahi mano wawata. That started a vision within me for my whānau, the whānau I might have. At that point, I hadn't met my husband. Don't know that we would have been married if I was rocking around like that at that time. We are not. This was a vision that became part of my vision and hope for my whānau, but it is a wawata at that point. It is just a dream and an aspiration. I tēnei wā ka whai whakaro au ki a tahu pōtiki, and I think of all that tahu pōtiki did. He really had to blaze a trail. And he's one of the people who I think every time I think about this journey that we've been on, the very slow opening of that door that I've experienced to let out something that I always knew was part of me. The thing about te reo Māori is it's not just for Māori people. It is the language of this land. It is in the mountains. I'm sure if you stand on the mountains, if you are at Shorevajet, at Te Kimiako, and you hear in the wind, there is something that connects us to this land. And I believe part of that is Te Reo Māori. It's in the vibration, it's in the insights, it's in the way that we speak to each other and the formats and the values that it offers us. So here's some more 90s goodness. Te Kaharua, possibly not even born. Definitely some of you were not born at that point. But there I am wearing a lot of polyester. When I was on youth television, my time there on the left in the 90s, and TV2, and oh look, I made it to Te Karaka back in the day there. That was my journey of learning Te Reo Māori. It was very public, very embarrassing. I'd make basic mistakes like saying kaupapa wrongly. I remember at Waitangi, I was in front of some really great speakers and I was trying to laugh at the right time when they were all speaking Māori and making jokes and, you know, having a few inu, and they're laughing away and I go, ah, trying to laugh at the right moment because I couldn't actually understand what they're saying. And then I went to say kaupapa and I said, oh yeah, that's such a cool kaupapa. And one of them turned and he said, darling, it's kaupapa. And I was like, oh yeah, noted, dying inside. So I just want to say to you that there's sometimes no way to avoid this whakamā. And it's not our fault, but now it's our choice what we do from here. Does Te Reo Māori deserve your respect enough to put in the effort, to put yourself out there a little bit and to be a little bit vulnerable? For me, I believe that the benefits mean yes, it does deserve that. Also, what you'll find is that people go, oh, you work for Ngāi Tahu. Oh, you must be able to speak Māori now. But as we know, that doesn't quite happen. What will happen is if we hold at our center a vision and a hope for ourselves, and this is the one that really motivated me, changed my life, and what I wanted to bring to my whānau is what I believe is intergenerational healing. So when you look at all those people, Iwiko, right down to George, Tom, Tōku Paua, in the healing, I believe I also offer my children the language that was kept from many of my ancestors. So what you see there on the screen is a response from Judge Hemi Taumono, now the boss of the district court. And he said in response to a kōrero that we all had, a wānanga that we all had together, that his father had agreed that giving our children Te Reo Māori is bigger than just offering them bilingual brains, which are awesome, by the way, as well. His father said to him, ka re tae te whenua I raupatungia te whakahoki ki wā tātou tamariki. We can't return to our children the land that was taken away. Ka re tae ngā rawa I tāhangia te whakahoki ki wā tātou tamariki. And we can't return to them all of the resources that they would have had. Engari anō te reo, ai, ka tae te ra taonga nui o te katoa te whakahoki ki wā tātou tamariki. But then there is one taonga, one treasure that belongs to us all that we can return to our children, and that is their language, Te Reo Māori. So that is what I aim to do with my whānau. Luckily, I have a very good support in that, takutane. Although people do say to me, you know, oh, you're lucky, you just married a papakupu, you married a dictionary, you married Mr. Te Karere, and so I got that with the wedding ring. But it actually, I will say, is called Te Reo Ukaipo and your mother tongue, because generally it's your mother that offers you that language. And so there, my nearly 9-year-old, she whose bedroom I have colonized, is right there in my hands. And that is the vision for my whānau. That is what I wanted to offer them, for them to be able to express their true selves and their full selves with their reo ukaipo. Ukaipo means literally breast milk. It means origin. So it is the language that they are fed at the breast in our situation, but also it is the language of origin. So when it comes to reo ukaipo, you're starting to get, if you haven't had already, an understanding of what it means to us as mothers, as whānau, as aunties, as descendants of Ngāi Tahu. So when I look at my daughter now, I acknowledge that this is a saying from Te Iwi Take Native Americans. And I thought this encapsulates the hope and the dreams coming true. When I look at my little girl, she can say, ko au te whakatinanatanga mai o ngā koingo ngākau o oku tupuna. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams come true. Iwi ko quite possibly couldn't have known what was to come, but in our loss, there is reclamation and there is opportunities for our wildest dreams to come true. But only if we set those dreams, we set those wawata, and we set our intentions. So now I wanted to talk again about cultural intelligence and knowing self being one of those. So now we're going to look at where we're at in terms of te reo Māori. I think I said there was just one quiz. And the best thing is you'll have the safety of working in numbers. So when you join this Kahoot, you're going to work as a team. So whoever is on your table, you're going to have a quick...
Stacey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Kia ora.
Hi.
So the audience here, the staff here, just realizing that we've got a game for them. So some of our staff are older than you and I like to say you are older than I by 3 years. We're going to play a game of Kahoot. So all of you who have got Ngāi Tahu phones, pull them out. We'll pay for the data. If you like to go to Kahoot, Google search Kahoot, and then Stacey will then put on screen what you're going to do.
Ka haroa.
Oh.
So they only need one person at their team to log into Kahoot because they're going to work as a team.
Senior staff member of the table, that's you. It's like P-card.
Stacey, you can share your screen now.
Okay. Okay, I will do. Here we go. Okay, now hopefully you can see me now.
Ooh,
Just waiting for it to come up.
Some of us know that Kahoot
Okay, we're going to
tune.
share that.
Yes, that tune is designed to bring forth stress.
Okay, for the people with the app or joining online, there's a game pin up top, 707-5937, or in a te reo Kamehameha, whitu, kore whitu, rima iwa toru whitu. Share flashy. So we've got table 16, toi tangata. The cheaters, toi tangata. I wouldn't trust them.
I'm picking them as winners.
No. Table 18 looks good. Town tonic.
Do it the ko. Oh, look at you. Oh, look, do it. Look, if you're writing this in Māori, you're going to know it anyway.
Lovely.
You're just going to win this. You're going to go, oh.
Table te ko ma.
Now, for full disclosure, speed matters in your response.
Speed matters.
Oh, tohu tō on te pu whā.
Yeah, te pu whā. Kei hea te pu whā. Ka pai koutou.
Teacher's pets.
Teacher's pets. You're in the wrong room, whānau.
Are you in? Are you ready?
Yeah, we're in.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys good? Okay, you ready? I think we're all ready.
Here we go. Okay, here we go. We're ready to start, whānau.
Just to clarify, oh, real for real.
Oh, check these guys out. Oh, so you can come up with the best name now.
I know you want to change it now, don't you?
17.
Kia mōhio mai koutou. So yes, speed matters. So you're going to have to confer very quickly as a group, choose your emblem and your answer. But the faster you answer correctly, the more points you get. The faster you answer incorrectly, you get nothing. You just get to lose faster.
Can Tisha and I join?
Definitely, yeah, under a fake name, but it wouldn't have been the first time, would it, Kahawa?
It wouldn't be the first time I faked my name.
No, I know.
No. That's a different
Diversion
story.
and all of that. Okay,
Shall we just start? Shall we start? We won't bring up
Okay,
next time.
let's go, everybody. Kupu 101. Toru, rua, tahi. What is the Māori word for yes? Remember, macrons matter. Is it?
Match up the letter
Feel
and
free
shape.
to stand if you need to stand to see.
Ooh, that was quick. Ooh.
Very quick. So note the macron on the top for I. And can I just say, really important, I is close, but how would you translate I there? Kaharoa?
There are 7 versions of the word AI. One of them is to copulate. An example is the word ngai tahu. Ngai tahu is the copulations of tahu potiki, the descendants of tahu. That's who we are.
Players
So,
gonna
yeah.
play.
So yeah, so whoever got that one wrong, ka pai, tēnā koutou. See you later.
And remember, so knowing your I and your I is important because consent matters. Okay, let's see.
Te puono.
E pu ono. What often
and-
happens in this situation is the leaders lead from the front and they never give up. But let's see. Okay, pātai tuarua. What is the Māori word for no? It's borat.
Borat.
Ka, kao, kaite o ko. I can't see you, but I guess that you are. Someone just pushed the wrong button and they're having a fight, I'm sure. Ko-
We're having to put people in corners now, Stacey.
Good. Question 2, and it's all falling apart. That sounds good. So cow. Can you all please say that for me? Cow.
Oh, God, they can't.
Whereas co means cow. So moo to that one. One person said car, and that's understandable. Probably it was a slip, but if we just all know that cow is no, then we know that the winners.
Hey.
Toi
I think they saw
tangata.
the quiz before.
Just so you know,
it started.
Stacey, Toi Tangata are at the back and they are all dancing, thinking that they're winning at the moment.
Yeah, well, toi tangata just says it all. They're active people, okay? What does wahine mean? Please note macrons or lack of. Is it woman or
Wow.
boring
Trick
story of
question.
my life? James Daniels would always tell me off for not saying women correctly. Woman. Mau pēr whakamārama atu ka haroa. So wahine without a macron means
Kotahi, one, woman.
woman.
Yep.
Whereas wahine with the
Macron on the
macron,
A.
the long sound over the A means women.
Aunties.
The people that are always right.
Yes,
So
Katika.
please say with me wahine
Wahine.
and wahine.
Wahine.
So
So when you do it, ladies and gentlemen, it's what Stacey don't see is this. If everyone can look at me, you got wahine. Everyone say wahine. And then you got to do this. Wahine. And you got to do the facials as well. You got to go wahine. Yeah, kapai.
I love how you said that you got wahine or wahine. How many wahine do you got?
I'm good at te reo. We won't talk about English. My England is good at.
Woo! So the scoreboard, Toi
Oh,
Tangata
Apex is in there.
is not giving up. Kapa, yes. Town Tonic, come on. Push them through because we're not actually too far through. Only 4 questions so far. What is a Māori word for a man? And this is an amazing photo.
Oh,
Oh.
Before the
manaho tira.
karere, before the suits.
yeah, is that manaho?
All right. Oh, look at you go. Oh, everyone, just give yourselves a high five because you're all right.
Bravo.
Tane. Can we say that out loud? Tane.
Got to do
No, it's
the
the
eyes,
long-
got to do atane.
Tane.
When you said man, I thought it was man.
Oh, man.
Far out. Had a different one.
No, not a tama, but a tane. That's what we're after, a man. Okay, so who nailed that one? Ooh, out of nowhere.
Toi
the
tangata
speed.
real
Hey,
scathing now.
Are you
Hey, we'll
working
get back.
together or is there just one person who's like, give me that, I'm going to answer?
I think
Okay,
they're jumping over the table.
That's what I want to hear. I want to create complete confusion. What is the Māori term for, I don't know, arnu?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Kia ora, aua, kao, kaore. Arnu.
Ooh. Say kia ora. Do you know Māori? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Ooh, ka pai mau pea e tahi o koutou, a iau. So aua.
Aua.
Can we say it and do the actions? Aua.
Everyone do this. Oua. Everyone go oua. You shrug your
Aua.
shoulders. Oua. Do you know who
English-
Mike Pohio is? Oua.
Aua. But can I just make a quick aside about aua? You know what I really respect about fluent speakers and tohunga o te reo. So people like Pau Te Mara, Timoti Karetu, they're not afraid to say aua. If they don't know something, it's that confidence of someone who goes, I don't know it, yet I'm interested to find out what it might be. So I just think saying aua is totally fine. So one more time, say with me, aua.
Aua. You got to do the shoulders.
Aua. I know so we had 7 people who thought it was kaore. Kaore is a negative term, or it didn't happen, but that's different from I don't know. And kao, I mean, you could say no, but literally I do not know is aua, but we do know who's leading. Oh, toi tangata. They know how to say I don't know.
I'm sure they got the dictionary in front of them.
Yeah, could you do some bouncing, please, there, Kaharua?
Yeah, we'll have to. Eyes on toi tangata.
Okay, up 6 places though, table 9, watch out, the highest climber. Te pātai tua ono. What does aroha
This one's
mean?
tricky.
You could say maybe a couple of answers, but woman's name, heart, family, love, compassion, empathy, sympathy. Woo! Ko tahi te pātai he, te whakautu he. So just one, I can understand why you did think it was heart, but manawa is generally our kupu for heart. And what I wanted to point out here is that aroha is not just love, it is also compassion, it is empathy, it is sympathy, it is all those things that are wrapped up in aroha. And at the moment you're like, yeah, where am I on the leaderboard? And Town Tonics, bring in the noise.
17. Put your hands up. Town Tonics. Oh, can't play. Good. Can't play. Toi tangata, I'm liking them. Toi tangata sitting behind Town Tonic 17. Scathing.
So I got your number because kupu tuawhitu. What does whānau mean? Will Smith says.
You
Is
know
it
it. Far away.
Family
No, don't come here.
Family give birth, family going on a trip. A family pass. Eknai tahu tourism.
Yeah. Here we go.
I tika tā te nuinga. I guess what I wanted to point out in particular here, that whānau does mean family, but also to give birth or to be birthed. So I whānau mai ahau I o tautahi, I was born in o tautahi. And that duality of Māori words is part of the brilliance. Sometimes it can be hard when you're learning, but it is an opportunity to look at what is the worldview behind that. Okay, and now the view of the scoreboard looks like this. Toi tangata. That wasn't fair. Like that is kind of a toi tangata-ish word set, don't you think? Whānau?
Aye.
Okay.
Yep.
What is a Māori term for the iwi holding territorial rights? Hapu, mana whenua, tangata tiriti, or whare?
Oh, toi tangata high-fiving each other. They're like, we got this. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
This
everyone
is-
knows that word.
Well, it's so Ngāi Tahu specific, I just have to say. I may have done this with other groups and like, I don't know, I live in Auckland, who would know?
Yeah.
But you know, because you are Ngāi Tahu Hāti, mana whenua, iwi holding territorial rights. But even when it comes to us with Ngāi Tahu, it's not uncomplicated. And that's part of the richness of our history, you know. So we can always, there's always time to listen and to have aroha when we're talking about who has mana whenua. Toi tangata does, seems to have mana whenua status at the top of that leaderboard.
I think the winners should shout lunch, ne?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
sorry, did
that's-
I not say that was part of it?
Oh, yes, no, you did it. Now toi tangata are like, oh.
Okay, so question number 9, your time to shine. Which is more formal, a whakatau or a pōwhiri? You should recognize that beautiful marae.
Oh, see how those answers come up real quick. Ka tika.
So could you actually, Kaharua, could you ask people, what are some elements of pōwhiri that aren't present in whakatau?
Does anyone here know what elements in a pōhiri are not in a whakatau? Just a hand up. Helen?
Karanga.
Again?
Karanga.
The karanga, Stacey, that is a good answer?
Kia ora. Tēnā pai.
Oh.
Generally, then again, sometimes people will do it at a whakatau, but mostly there's not karanga. Kaharo, I thought it might be worthwhile explaining as well. You're saying pōhiri rather than pōwhiri. Could you?
Yeah, it's funny because I
explain
write pōwhiri. I write that, but I say pōhiri. So for those people that don't know, the word pōwhiri and pōhiri is just dialectual differences.
Like?
And yeah, we'll talk about that later on.
It's still written the same.
Yep.
Okay. And you're like, hey, just let me win this thing, would you?
Yeah.
But probably at your workplace, you have both whakatau and pōwhiri. Pōwhiri is the full noise. You might even have the wero and the karanga, and it will be in a formal kind of layout, whereas whakatau can be a more simplified version that we do at workplaces particularly.
Like
Nō
we
reira,
did this
pātai
morning.
whakamutunga.
Last one. Oh, look at that flaming tonic 17.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
Can they
on
bring more
fire.
Where
flames?
we're going after.
Oh,
On
wahi ana.
fire.
Okay, pātai whakamutunga, here we go. What is the Māori word for an incantation, blessing, or prayer? Is it mihi mihi, whai kōrero, karakia, or waiata? The speed will be the essence here.
Whoa, Hundies.
Good job.
We are 100% correct.
And really the win
High
here is
five.
that everyone got it correct. And I think it's good to remind ourselves that karakia incantations, I know that blessing and prayer are definitely used as well, and that kei te pai tērā, that's all good, but an incantation is also a really good way to explain it. So does anyone want to start a karakia to see if they're going to be at the top of the leaderboard? Let's see, who is it? Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yay, table 14.
But then again, look, they all got 10 out of 10. Nō reira, me mihi tātou kia koutou katoa. It's all just about the speed. So please, can I have a round of applause? Ho mai te paki paki.
Kia ora,
Toi
mai.
tangata, for all the winners.
All the winners. And the best thing about it, I'll just stop sharing my screen here. Best thing about it is that you've all engaged in knowing yourself, looking at where you're at, finding out more about who you're working with, who's super competitive, who's just a little bit tense, and who is also, you know, knowledgeable in some areas and other stuff that we need to work on. Okay, so I'll go back to my slides now, because when we know ourselves and we can look at knowing others, then these are all qualities and skills that we can use as rangatira, as people who are leading. So bringing people along with you, I wanted to, oops, sorry, I just accidentally pushed that. Bringing people along with you is something that in terms of Te Reo Māori, I can see as important. I've experienced as being important because I have roles on television and in radio, that sometimes people need to understand the purpose, the reason, and that it will be of benefit. And I know that some people, if they haven't had language learning in their lives before, they really need to be convinced of a reason as to why they should hear Te Reo Māori around them, which is just really the lowest level of tolerance. So hearing it on TV and radio is challenging for some people. You may be surprised that we have people saying, stop, stop ramming it down our throats. One that I got last week, I think browbeat, that was an interesting one, because this is a language that is indigenous to our country, but also as an official language. And as an official language, just like sign language in New Zealand, it does have this status, so that on public television and media, we have an opportunity. And when you learn language, you don't lose one, you just gain more. And bilingual people that you know, how many bilingual people are in the room of any language? How many of you are bilingual? And maybe I think Hazel said Afrikaans.
Hands up if you're bilingual already. We've got a few people.
So what that does
I got
for
one
us-
person, Stacey, I got one person when you said who's bilingual. They were like, put your hand up. And he goes, oh, I'm not fully bilingual.
Now that's a really good point. It's scary to say that you're fluent.
Yep.
So it's a really good point. But maybe ask those people, what are some of the benefits of being bilingual as they see it?
Okay, yep. So Fabian, you're one of our people here. Fabian just started with us recently. He came to the Mihi Whakatau yesterday. Itu, bro. Itu, stand up. So you're one of our bilingual peeps, bilingual. So what's one of the benefits, mate?
It's easier to communicate with much more people, and you have a different understanding of how different languages work. So it's easier to comprehend more people.
Yeah.
Kia
Kia
ora. Love that. And I think also, Fabian, yes, tino pai, what you're saying as well, you can see, do you mean like formats of language? So you can see, oh my, yeah, shortcuts. I can see you nodding. And our language of Māori will describe the noun, the house, whare, and then nui, and then have the adjective afterwards. So we say whare nui, which you could say is house big, whereas in English, we say big house. But is English your second language? I can see you.
Yes.
And do you have 3 languages or something?
Yes.
See, that's the thing in New Zealand. We fight for our right to be monolingual so hard. Yet we have this opportunity to be like you. Incredible code switches. You have this universal dashboard in your brain that is constantly telling you which language of all my languages shall I choose. And that is a really relevant work skill. I see that in tamariki as well. They can just chuck words in from every language. And I remember we went to France when 2 of our kids were little, and we just used the, school certificate level of French that we had, whatever we knew. And then my daughter, when we came back, she was only 4 years old. She said, Hana Maya was one of her friends at school at that time. She said, Kārea Hana Maya te marama ki te reo Māori. She's saying, Hana Maya doesn't speak Māori. And I said, yes, she does. He kōrero Māori, Hana Maya. She says, Kao? No. Nā te mea ki au ki ai komo sava, kāre e marama. Because I said to her, komo sava, and she didn't understand. So at that point, at 4 years old, she went, I'm speaking another language, so it must be Māori, even though it was French. So all of those fascinating things that go on in children's brains, I think, are opportunities when you're bilingual. So be like Fabian. This is our kōrero, our whakatauki for the day.
That's a whakatauki, yeah. Be like Fabian. Yeah.
Ka pai. So in bringing people along, if we go back to that kōrero there, there's a lot of ways that we look at things. And yeah, to be honest, I don't enjoy seeing so many pictures of myself, but it's an example.
All on one side too. That's great.
What is she?
That one profile.
But at least she has ngai tahu green on.
Ka pai.
So if I talk to you a bit about the strategy of bringing people along and what goes on behind the scenes when we develop something. So I saw the development of the mana, the status, and the usage of te reo Māori increasing in what we call mainstream media. And I saw as well in an observation that some people feel left behind when it comes to te reo Māori as a result of that. And I can have aroha for that. So I then looked for a remedy, and this remedy that I created is in the form of a podcast. And my remedy was to provide the clips of audio that they're hearing on the media, to break them down and to explain what they mean. So when we're trying to bring people along with you, can you hear the people next door who are mowing their lawns?
But it's good to play. We can hear you more.
Okay. No one even lives there. They haven't mowed their lawns for 7 weeks. Why? Of course, this is happening right now. But this is a little bit about strategy. See something that is happening, observe what is needed, and then provide the remedy. And when I talk about cultural intelligence, it takes a few things to bring people along with you. And I have identified some opportunities and some ways that we can express that sometimes people just want education. They just want to know a little bit more, but mana is important. The value that is placed on something is important, and also the opportunity. So the opportunity to use that language, the opportunity to hear it spoken, and that can lead to growth and also to our unity. So if we go back to that and look at it in terms of te reo Māori, what does education look like? Well, it's language learning, mana, It's about the value that is placed on te reo Māori in any environment. So I may be talking about media, but you might be talking about your workplace or even your home. And then the opportunity is, what opportunity do you have to use the reo at work, and therefore how relevant will it be to you? When you put all those together for growth, then we also have one of our values coming out in kotahitanga, that it creates unity because we are on that journey together, that we have put this effort in together. So then if I look at what my husband and I have tried to offer in terms of education, that is because we saw a gap. We realized how hard it was. So Māori Made Easy is the first book that my husband wrote maybe 10 years ago. He is a second language learner, and your perspective as a second language learner means that you can see why other people are struggling. So he developed Māori Made Easy, which is 30 minutes a day of learning, and that became then the workbooks. And I'll tell you a bit more about the audiobook as well. We wrote Māori at Home together, just like everything, including the laundry. No, actually, he does more laundry than me. We wanted to work together on that, realizing that whānau needed some help, some education, and the resource of how you do this, how you bring your kids up with even a little bit of Māori. And then My First Words in Māori is a book that I created so that whānau can have something that their kids can point to and learn from. And I even had a little girl who was only 2 years old, a little girl with blonde curly hair, and she saw me for about 2 seconds at a cafe and she said, "You're the lady in my Māori book." And I didn't actually ever expect that that would happen, but that's the beauty of the opportunity in children's minds, that they just pick up so much things you don't even realize that they are picking up. So if we look at some of the other work that we've done, it's not about empire building, even though there has been sort of accusations along that line. It's about looking at what the opportunities are. So if I share with you some of the strategy around the audio book, the development that we saw was that the book sold very well, to our surprise. And after a couple of years, after I guess society changed a little bit in terms of willingness and openness to learning the reo, but the observation was that people wanted to hear the audio, and so the remedy is to create an audiobook version. It's not an ad, because anyone who works in books knows it doesn't make lots of money anyway, and this one's free. So our online course with Massey University called Toromai is worldwide and free. I was forced to go to Melbourne to launch this, which was actually awesome. But it is important to remove barriers to learning, and one of those is money and is time. So that's why we address that with Toromai. We have 50,000 people who have registered to do that, and you get a little digital certificate as well, and get to see us as avatars in a very pointy goatee. Oh, I don't think it's on me, I think it's on my husband. And in terms of creating resource and making sure that it's fit for purpose, we also want to make sure that there's opportunity. Opportunity to speak te reo Māori is one of the biggest challenges for second language learners. So we actually started Māori for Grown-ups, which is a rōputakoro, a play group, when our oldest child was a baby. He's now 15 almost. So this is my sort of professional way of saying I had no mates, so I had to create a group. So people like Janine Tamati Aleph lived up here then, and we would get together and we'd create opportunity to speak Māori. From that, we created our online group, Māori for Grown-ups, and that is still online, around 30,000 people. And that is particularly focused. It's important to have an area of focus and relevance to people. So this is always particularly orientated towards the language of the home. So that's what Māori for Grown-ups achieves. So now I'd like you to do another activity, because I've seen how good you are at them. Ohia mano mano, that's our word for brainstorm. So could you have a look at the Menti site? And I think Hazel, you may have to describe to people how they're going to participate in this one.
Kia ora, we've just brought it up on the screen. So Stacey, do you want them to do it as groups or individuals?
I think it's good to have a kórero. So yeah, maybe talk to each other. Yeah.
As your group. Okay. So one person, log on to menti.com and use that code 14178031 that's at the top. And have a discussion. And whatever you post will just go up as a word bubble. Menti.com.
It is anonymous,
MEN.
isn't it?
Yeah, totally anonymous. This is about the question. So spend some time. It's not a speed exercise.
It's not like Kahoot.
We already know who won that.
Let's try to get it off. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to want to put your, put you in the position of being introduced to sharing more about experience in the group.
Taranaki here. See you.
Raki here. Stacey can see you. Stacey, kia ora, Raki here. Oh, wait there, I'll just save the microphone. Wait there, Mike there. Here we go. Here you go.
Kia ora whanaunga.
Then,
I enjoyed the whakapapa there, and I was looking at James Robertson Clough. So it was great seeing all those photos up there, and Iwiko as well.
Hi. There's definitely a resemblance with kaharoa. What is that about?
Stop it. You can stop with the jawline thing too. Okay? Both of you. Yeah, he does it too. Stop it. Now other people are looking at my jawline, Stacey. Oh my gosh.
Bye. So you're already getting right into it.
Yeah, can we scroll? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we able to scroll through?
Yeah, we're having a look at that.
Yep. Choice.
Now, kaharoa, because you can see it better than me, would you like to perhaps bring up some of the kōrero and get people to explain a little bit further if there's anything that they've come up with that may need a little bit more insight so people can understand what they meant by that?
Yeah, okay. So some of the stuff we have is because of the question, how can Ngāi Tahu bring people along with te reo Māori? Kaharoa walks in front of the screen. One of them, short courses, module-based. Integrating te reo into our SOPs, standard operating procedures. Can Ngāi Tahu partner with an educational institution to deliver certified te reo learning standards? Perhaps the Ngāi Tahu dialect could be a big point of difference. That's a cool one. Who's in our education team?
Can I actually talk about that one as a fantastic idea? And the opportunity within that, because in terms of unit standards, sometimes we get really caught up in that. And funding is usually the issue and the reason why. So EFTs or getting people on board is what a lot of institutions have to depend upon. But the autonomy and the opportunity within Ngāi Tahu is, if it is self-funded, if we decide that it is of importance, then you have this type of agility that other places don't. So I've been looking at what the public service need, and there's definitely a need for a basic standard that kind of meets what we call mahi karona. So I think I'd love to see that explored a little bit. What could be custom made by Ngāi Tahu?
Well, an idea. Well, we can say, just talking between you and I, taiwa kia taiwa, that the comms and engagement and marketing team, te koroi, under Raki Hia Tau, one of the pillars that we have to do is promote te reo kaitahu. So that is important to our runanga, to our papatipu. I think in regards to developing a certification of sorts, I think if that's led by our papatipu runanga and supported and funded by Mike Pōhio and Craig Ellison in the future, tēnā kōrua, that we can be able to do it ourselves. We don't really need that certification from a NCEA, NZQA framework, do we? Will we? When we leading our own, we can have our own Ngāi Tahu, like a genuine Ngāi Tahu pounamu. We can have our Ngāi Tahu certification of te reo. Those ones who exemplify that. They're
And
the
that
ones wearing the
immediately
fin.
comes to mind as, you know, say a standard. You could reach an inanga standard or a kawakawa standard. Different levels of pounamu could be what we decide
Whanuiru.
as, as our level.
Go back. There's one, Stacey. Mike Pohio, Craig. This is the evolved the mana. Mike Pohio to buy a TV station and appoint Stacey as the director of the station. Ka pai.
Done.
Done. You buy it, Stacey will come. Can we bring manaho as well?
Yeah, it's a package deal. What I
Tata.
do notice is Mike Pohio is on TV more than I am anyway.
It's a good looks. It's a good looks, Pohio. Cool. Kura reo. Who doesn't know what kura reo is? Yep. So kura reo is one of the workshops that reo workshops we give. Ngai tahu do it, other iwi do it as well. I remember going up to Rotorua a lot back in the day for kura reo. How long is it here, Tish? How long is kura reo here? Kia kurapa.
Kia kurapa, 2 days. 2.5.
2.5 days of
Friday
intense
night to
reo.
Sunday.
So it's an intense reo session at the level that you are at. It's really intense. So when Stacey talked about Scotty, her husband, or we call him Manaho, that's his Māori name. We've got another story in there. When you go to kura reo, Stacey brought up the fact that he was like the Matrix. He knew where the E and the key and the air and the passive endings all went. You come back from a kura reo or kia kurapa, you're thinking Māori. You are totally thinking Māori, and the Māori language. You think you're speaking English, but you're speaking Māori, and your partner just freaks out. That's what happened to me. I come
And
back
they
from a
find you
kura reo.
hotter. That's what happens.
They find you hotter. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's it.
Or you
That's it.
start dreaming in te reo.
Oh, when you start dreaming in te reo,
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
Can I ask a question about kia kurapa? Can anyone go to those? That's something that's not clear to me. Can anyone? So you don't have to even be ngai tahu?
Kyle, but there is waiting lists and whānau get priority. So
Yeah, so it's open up to Ngāi Tahu
Open.
first, but then it's open up to everyone else after that.
Tell
I
me about
think,
some of the other ideas you can see.
Yep. Can I make the teas? I don't know what that one is.
can I make the teas? You're
Oh,
be
relate
spilling
to
the
someone
tea?
wants to, if we buy the station, someone wants to make the cups of
Oh.
tea. Ka pai. Add some competition, short social media posts.
Video presentation with English subtitles. That's a really interesting one. So Kaimahi can hear correct pronunciation. Can people tell me how they feel about subtitles? Because what I noticed, there's a small phenomenon called Squid Games. People can either watch that kind of thing with subtitles, or you can listen to it in the language. Do you find subtitles distracting? How many people, could you show a raise of hands? How many people find subtitles distracting?
Mike Poorhill's got his hand up, so damn, we
Okay.
don't get the station.
Who prefers subtitles?
Who doesn't mind subtitles?
Okay. Well, that's
The
interesting.
the majority.
Okay. That shows
Sorry,
us
those
that's an
people who
opportunity.
don't like it. You lost. Weave it through our business units, normalizing it through all communications. On-demand training. Ooh, I like that one. On demand. Like TVNZ. We want it now.
Anytime. It's yours.
Oh, look, bring us together like today. Restoring place names.
Kia ora.
It's okay to try. Audiobooks, multiple learning platforms in general. Keep it fun. It's okay to fail. No criticism or shame. That's awesome.
He taonga wene kōrero katoa. These
Aye.
are awesome ideas. And I hope that this will be a resource that you can refer to. Don't worry, Kaharu, I'm just like doing your job for you here. But it's,
You are.
and-
Tēnā koe.
But
like
it
it.
is
Carry
really
on.
good to check in and use these opportunities to go, okay, what could we do? What do I want? And we'll have one last activity. Well, I'll ask you to look at how the reo sits for you and where you want to be. But we can go back to the slides for a short amount of time.
Kia ora. Are we able to keep these somehow? Toi tangata? Yep, Hazel's nodding. Yep, thumbs up. We can keep these and try and integrate them for the staff here, the team. Kia
Safe
ora.
haven is a beautiful word. And in Māori, we say ahuru mōwai. Can we all say that one? Ahuru mōwai. Ahuru mōwai. ahuru mōwai, so creating a safe haven in so many ways, but to learn as well. Okay, I've just pushed the slide button. Okay, ka pai. So when we bring that back to the context of what the rest of the world calls cultural intelligence, and that is relevant to all of us, I believe, and then overlay our values of whanaungatanga, manaakitanga, and rangatiratanga, knowing where you're at and knowing where others are at is incredibly important. And you've just done a couple of exercises that tell you about where you're at, where others are at. And the important thing about that is that it builds an opportunity and a relationship where you're feeling more comfortable about talking about te reo Māori, how you feel about it. Because if any one of you are secretly sitting there with a little pit of worry going, I think I'm not very good. I think I'm just never going to be able to roll my R's, or I think that I just am not good at languages. Let that fear out, because as they say, shame can't survive the light. It's never as bad as you think. You are in an ahuru mōwai, you're in a safe haven, you're in a place that actually values te reo Māori. Quite often, this is something that you need. So it's just looking at a plan for how you're going to lose some of that anxiety or concern that you have about it and actually step into the opportunity. Okay, so in our next slide, I'm just going to talk about a couple of concepts that we may have mentioned already, but just to consider that in our values and in our words, we bring in a Māori worldview. So yes, we're learning language, but also we're learning ways of considering things. We're learning ways of looking at the world. So you probably know that iwi means tribe, but it also relates to kōiwi, being bones, because we come from the bones of a shared ancestor. Hapu is our sub-tribe. I always think that sounds really sort of clunky in English, but that's probably, a term for our little cluster. But it also means to be pregnant and give life. And that's because from one pregnancy, our hapu was created. Whenua is our land, but it's also placenta. So as the whenua sustains us, so does the placenta sustain our children. And in whānau, as you know in your quiz today, it's not only your family, but to be born, and we're born into our whānau. So that duality of Māori words also offers us an insight. So then some Māori words, as I say, we can break down and we can see a bit more of that insight. Rangatira, to weave people together. Not all Māori words can be broken down like that, but some can. Whoops, sorry. Like manaakitanga. Often people will look at this word and go, why isn't there just a macron in the middle? But there's those double A's, and it's because it's two words brought together, mana and aki. You know what mana means in terms of personal power, charisma, respect, and aki is to encourage. Aki is so to encourage and respect and uplift the mana of people. That's what we do with manaakitanga. And I just want to acknowledge there'll be quite a few of you who look at this image and you know it's Onuku, and you know why everyone was there, and you know some of those faces, ka hokinga mahara, and you have all those memories, because that is, and those hui are why we are here today. And manaakitanga, at the very seat of that, is the opportunity that we're looking at. So now I'd just like to quickly give you some time to look at where you are personally in te reo Māori and some goals that you might be willing to set. This is an individual task, but it would be good if you can actually have a moment to share with your table if you want to. But we've talked about what Ngāi Tahu can do, but what can you do? So can you just write where you're at in terms of te reo Māori now, and just a goal that you have for yourself? It can be small, aha koe he iti he paunamu, even though it is small, it is precious. So it may be that you're going to finally do the karakia when you usually hand it over to somebody else. It may be that you're going to lock in some words like Ngāi Tahu, paunamu, te wai paunamu. What do you have? Kaharoa. It's not waharoa.
I've heard otherwise.
Yeah, let's not go down that path. Oh, you got someone laughing at it now. Kia ora.
So what is your personal goal for Te Reo Māori? And I love seeing you all writing it down. And also thinking poses. Thinking poses are good too.
Thinking
I also-
poses are good. Like they're all doing thinking poses.
I really like the yellow outfit.
This one here?
Yes,
Yeah.
Poppin'. So a small goal, small achievable goal. Yes, sorry, I'm looking like a creep seeing you from the side. But it's good. It's great. It's complimentary. So in terms of the deal, what goal do you have for yourself?
Oh, some people are definitely reflecting hard here, Stacey.
It's a big question. But because it's a big question, small things can be helpful as well. So it can be just to have email sign-offs, and all of that is fine, but it's just got to become part of a bigger momentum.
Yeah. A simple one, and kia ora everywhere. Just saying kia ora to everyone, even if they say hi back. You can say kia ora because majority of us in New Zealand know kia ora means hello.
And thank you.
And thank you. Oh, yeah, and thank you. And be well. And
Yes,
be
and
energized. All those awesome words.
Can we also say, while we're still thinking, pronunciation of pounamu? Korero mai, pounamu.
Pounamu.
Pounamu. And then hear this difference. What you'll often hear, even on TV sometimes, is pounamu. Can you hear the difference there? Pounamu, pounamu. So it's a hard one where you have to be resilient enough to be corrected. Like me with kaupapa, kōpapa in front of everyone, you do need some resilience to be able to take on board people correcting you. And also a dynamic where you have agreed in your workplace that we will let people correct in ways that are still mana enhancing. So how we do it with our tamariki is if they make a grammatical mistake, we'll repeat it correctly, but not actually say that's not how you do it. So if they say, for instance, they might for a while there, rather than saying in the middle of a sentence to go and, they go me, which sort of comes from English. So we'd say and they go and I just heard her today correcting herself. So maybe there's something that we can talk about in a workplace to go, okay, if we do need to be corrected, how are we going to do it? How is it going to remain mana enhancing? And now, Kaharo, can I throw over to you to ask anybody who's willing to share some of their goals that they've come up with?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone in this room is willing to share, whether I put the microphone in front of them or not. I think someone texting. Awesome. Kia ora, boss. Robert.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. So what is something here? Sorry, Stacey, I know your face is, you're seeing it through that camera, eh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello.
Ka pai.
I see you.
You see the back of his head. Ka pai. So here we go, bro.
I just put start again. So I've just downloaded Stacey Morrison's audio book.
Me.
So, and the other one would be to introduce a new Māori word into my kōrero at work every day, and also into my comms.
Yep.
Try and pick one new word every day that I don't use. And if there is the opportunity for modular learning online to be able to fit it in around work, that would be awesome.
Me, that's cool. Even if I just on that one you said, Robert, which is learn a Māori word a day, even a Māori word a week, and have that word for a week. That's mean as well. That's still a challenge, and it's still a success, because learning a language, like learning anything else, whether it's a 7-minute mile or a 14-minute mile, it's still a mile. Whether you learn a word a day or a word a week, it's still a word. So, Ming, ka pai, Rob.
Can I just
anyone
acknowledge
else?
how awesome those goals are? Can everyone please recognize it? And let's give some appreciation. That was
So, Shom love.
amazing.
Okay, who else we got? Oh, yep.
I'm going to tell Scotty too.
Got one over here, boss. Kia ora, Rotorua.
I guess for me, I want it to be everyday use and everyday language. It's just something that becomes normalized and natural, and not having to sort of strain it or stress it, but just let it flow.
Kia Kia ora.
Me.
Beautiful.
That is, and the great thing about it is, I love the word Māori. The actual word Māori, wai Māori, te ao Māori, kia tau wana, mohi wana, ki te kōrero. The word wai Māori. Can anyone who knows what wai Māori is, show me your wai Māori? Kia ora, Dean. Yep, kia ora. It just means water, natural water, water in its natural state.
Actually,
ao
can we
Māori.
just dig into that a little bit? Because I don't want anyone to be left behind.
Yep.
When we talk about Māori, it just means natural, normal, because we didn't need a word for saying who we were as a collective group until Pākehā arrived. So the word Māori apparently comes from when Tupaia, the Tahitian navigator who was with James Cook, he was asked that, you know, he's looking through the, I guess the thing, the taru whakatata.
His
And-
finger. He's looking through his finger.
Who are those people there? And oh, those people there, well, they are Māori. As in, he said Māori because Tahitian is that close to Māori that he said they're just normal.
Normal.
So Tahitians would look at how Māori look and go, they just look normal. So Māori as a term is fairly recent. And before that, we'd always talk about who our hapu were, our iwi were. So those are the levels of I guess, of how we identify. I know that Tini Molyneux, who some of you may remember from Te Karere, she said she didn't know that she was Māori until she was 16. And Judy Bailey was there at the time. She said, well, what did you think you were? And she said, Tūhoi. So her sense of self first came from being Tūhoi. But Māori, that's one of the meanings there that I think is worth considering. He kōrero anō, anybody else with their awesome goals they want to share?
Yep. I'm going over here. You put your finger by your nose, so that means you're putting your hand up, bro. Joyce, here we go. Oh, look at that. He wants me to
Oh, you're
run
buying
to
a
him.
house.
Here we go.
Okay, Kia ora.
ora.
What I have put down is probably I will more familiar with all the karaoke, and also is Maori language for my personal actually, so it will become the third language. English is second. My mother language is Chinese. So for myself is I will push myself to have confidence to say out each Maori word what I learned every day. For example, like Kia ora is my first Maori language since I arrived New Zealand. And also since I joined Ngāi is change myself is I use email is always use Kia ora for to greeting everyone to replace like ni hao or hello. Is what I learned since I joined Ngāi and just give myself confidence to say all the Maori word.
Oh my
There.
God.
Well, on there, I just want you to feel comfortable also using kia ora, tēnā koe, all of that, as well as ni hao
Kia ora.
in the same one.
But also pre-COVID, my job is a sales, so I always travel a lot to China, and we have lots of conference, sales conference. So every time I did my presentation, I always just say Tina koto kator, and in China, and everyone feel just amazing, and also it's a way to connection between China and New Zealand, also connection between Maori and Chinese culture. We only say some culture is quite similar, Maori culture and the Chinese culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kia ora, ngā mihi. And
Ni
yeah, I'm
hao.
coming on your trip next time.
Yeah. Well, actually, I went to China in 2019 with Huawei, and I went to their headquarters, and the manakitanga is so similar, and feeding people and lots of mana and kai, all of those things I felt were very similar in our cultures. And like you say, when you have a deeper understanding of culture, they have this way of connecting and a way of seeing how we are similar, and then celebrate our differences as well. Because when you feel good about your own culture, then it also gives you space to feel good about other cultures. So I love that, Kaharoa, how you said say ni hao and kia ora.
Yeah, me. Would anyone else like to share? Oh, kia ora, Mike Pohio. Tēnā koe.
Oh, poor Mike.
These 2 days are going to be awful.
I know. Ka aroha
We're already
koe.
halfway through the first.
It is to talk in an everyday sense. So being able to converse basically.
Kia ora. And that is the thing about a living language. I'll repeat again, we can't become better speakers without speaking. And it's harder. We'd all like to have this transformation where, you know, we just come out and all of a sudden we're a fluent speaker and we're best at whai kōrero. And I really just want to acknowledge that it's harder for our men because you are thrown into these situations where you're expected to be able to deliver formal kōrero. So let's wrap around our men that we put in those positions and our wahine. To do karanga, to understand and value that karanga have a lot of the agenda and kōrero that are brought into the hui as well. So until we are honest about what we need, it will be hard to get it. But all of you have talked about every day, about turning up, about getting back into it. That's all that it is. No one is born being able to program themselves with different languages so quickly. It's really just turning up, and it really is just making sure that you speak and use what you know. Koina noiho. Ko paurana te wā kia tātou kaharoa.
I thought we might try the online team again, see if we can get them in.
Oh, online team.
Yeah.
Let's go, Avex. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora, mate.
Your guys' microphone is muted, it looks like.
I thought they were
Hey.
actual All Blacks. I mean, look at them. They look so athletic.
No,
Yeah.
that's actually a mannequin.
Oh, yeah, they're rock hard.
Maybe maybe we can join Phil in his room. We're going to try just bring in one person online.
We want to try and get you guys talking as
Yeah,
well.
we'll sort that out during lunch for the
Whatever,
All
mate.
Blacks room. Is there anyone else?
It's going to be cool when the
join?
All Blacks and when the All Blacks experience
Oh.
group, this group here, can
Mhm.
actually talk to us, because they're going to be like,
Yeah,
right,
there's Phil.
for the first
Right.
session, this is what we got.
Phil.
And spend half an hour with these guys.
Uh,
Oh, Phil.
Kia ora katoa. I'm ready for a kōrero. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
And we can see you.
Excellent. My goals, I'd like to commit to learning 3 karakia from memory, so I don't need to read them off a piece of paper.
Taui.
Kia ora.
And I'd like to sign up to the Toro Mai program with Massey.
Toro mai.
Easy peasy.
Kia ora.
You can do it. Ka pai.
That's me. Ka pai.
Kia ora.
Yes, I think.
Do we clap? We clap. Joyce.
Awesome. Thank you.
Actually, with the ones who can't speak to us, let's also remind ourselves that body language is important. So often kids will be able to figure out what you mean because they're better at reading body language. They're just open to it. And body language can often give us understanding. And then we also have the body language of waiata āringa, of our action songs. They'll say te mauka, and we'll be pointing, you know, like making a mountain. So that's actually really important in terms of te reo Māori and our culture, is how we use our bodies to remember things. Sometimes your hands will remember the words before your brain actually does, or your mouth does. So if we use all of our senses, all of our opportunities, ka tino pai te tere o te waka, and we'll be going really, really well. So do join up to Toro Mai, easy peasy, and 50,000 people have. See, you could just show me your upoko, All Blacks people. Where's your upoko?
I want to bring All Blacks guys.
Ka pai. And where are your puku?
The other one.
Oh, everyone else can do it here, can do it too. Where's your puku?
Yeah. Everyone needs a
Yeah,
kai.
that's
Are you hungry? Kei te hia kai koto, are you hungry?
We will get ngai tahu. We're never hungry.
And what about your waiwai? Kei hea o koto waiwai. Where are your waiwai? Show me your waiwai. Yeah,
This guy
nice
is like,
waiwai
okay.
in the house. See, no matter what, you can always find ways to communicate, and that really is what it's about. That's why I love that you guys have all talked about the everydayness, because it's about communication. Ka pai. Hoki atu ana ki a koutou kaharoa. He wā rane mo te tuku pātai mai.
Ah, okay. So Stacey just said if there's any questions you have for her. Has anyone got any questions? Just put your hand up. We've got a couple of roving mics that can go to you. Yeah. No, everyone's all scared.
This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, you get to speak to someone with a big head on the screen. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's like a
massive
god.
Thank you for that.
You can just keep it.
Any pātai? I suppose the question I have then to kick this off, since this is impromptu, there's heaps of resources there. You're talking about Māori Made Easy. We've got Te Whanake. Hey, we've got the Whanake series that we know about. All these courses. What would be a couple of things you would suggest for our staff, our whānau here, to try for the next 2 weeks?
Well, I think someone said that the problem is that you can't get into courses. So anything that you can do by yourself, people have already talked about ways that they can engage at home, but also are there ways that in your workplace you can set up opportunities? Even I see that you have some classes, but are there things that you can do, just even a 10-minute kōrero time? So kafe and kōrero. So you're having coffee and kōrero, and you might have, say, a set of words that you're going to use and try to bring them up. Even if you put them in an English sentence, it might be, homai te huka, can you please give me the sugar? And, or it might be someone's job to say, how would you like your coffee? He kafe mai? Would you like a coffee? And then people say, aye. And then you talk about a particular context. So sometimes it's about a context and a situation that you create so that people can learn language about that. And if coffee is important to you, then you will talk about it. So it's creating that opportunity as well.
Coffee's so important to us. We've got a barista in the room.
Barista in the room, we do. Fabian, that's you.
Okay.
Oh, an actual barista as well on the side. Got a partai from Hazel's mic.
Tēnā koe, Stacey. My question is around how do you keep your confidence when speaking Te Reo Māori, particularly maybe when you're speaking publicly? Is there anything that you do physically or emotionally to keep the confidence?
Stacey does 20 burpees before she does this.
It's true. No, that's such a good question. I really, and I'm not just saying that to stall. Usually when people say that it's such a good question, they're just trying to get more time to think about what they want to say, but it genuinely is a good question because it's real. No one does all of their work without any nervousness or worry, and something that's been a real foundation and help for me, and I think something that I suspected I knew I needed from Te Reo Māori is karakia. So I did karakia before I joined in today to acknowledge that I wanted to bring good energy from within, from the surrounding environment. I put breath into my puku. The thing about karakia is it gives us a chance to center. So whether you call it mindfulness or whatever the practice looks like to you, it's actually taking a moment of quiet. It's being mindful of your breath. It's giving thanks and gratitude to what you already have, and then setting an intention for what you want. That's all of the things that the incantation of karakia do. So kia ora wā, I definitely do karakia. I also sometimes will think about bullet points, but what I really want to acknowledge is that it's scary. And it's really frustrating how scary Te Reo Māori can be. So you can be a very confident person, and then all of a sudden, when it comes to Te Reo Māori, the fact you're not supposed to read things from a piece of paper, you're supposed to know it off by heart, because you've got the challenges of pronunciation, all of that, for some reason, it comes together and it is terrifying. So if anyone can relate to that feeling where you kind of feel like you're being pulled down from inside yourself, when you have to stand and do some kōrero, that you just need to know you're not alone. That everybody feels like that, but it shows that you care. And that means that you are living your purpose, that you are challenging yourself, that you are growing. And to me, you have to take that as a win. So just center yourself, do your karakia, do your breathing, appreciate why you're here, appreciate that you're better than you were yesterday, that you've got more knowledge on board, and also give yourself a break. There is no one who has ever learned a language without making a mistake. It's impossible.
Absolutely. And on that, I just want to encourage that one, that this should be one of the organizations where you have your ahuru mowai. Who remembers that word? Safe haven. Ngai tahu should be the place where you feel comfortable to practice the reo you have and allow others to show you your next step. That's that leadership quality. Those ones who are learning, don't rely, and e hara tēnei te whakaiti ki a koe e takutua ine. We shouldn't be relying on the Stacys and the Scotties and
the
all the other
Kahoas.
fluent speakers or others like that to take you on the journey. You've got leaders at different levels of reo sitting down watching us. So you guys can encourage the next ones whilst you're learning as well. So it's all of that.
You don't have to be a reo expert to be a reo champion. So no matter where you are, you can still champion te reo Māori. And what I'd also say as a challenge is don't let yourself be stereotyped. For a while there, I was being stereotyped as the one who couldn't speak Māori, and it pissed me off. And so I changed it. So that's the other thing, is that sometimes in your whānau, you will go, okay, there's Kaharoa, he does all the karakia, he does all the kōrero. So you let yourself off the hook, but don't let yourself be stereotyped. I know it's hard to a kanataina. Sometimes we have some people who are going to be in that position more than others, but I just want to encourage you to step into your best self and the opportunity that you have and the hopes that you have for yourself to have that growth. And just know that your growth actually inspires other people. That's what I've learned, because people used to say to me, oh, you used to be a kia ora girl. So a kia ora girl, I guess, was someone who could only say kia ora. And she said, oh, and look at you now. So just know that your journey can actually inspire other people as long as they let it inspire them.
Any other pātai? Oh, come on over here, come on. Ko koe te rā, chat.
Tēnā koutou, Stacey. I'm wondering if you could recommend a dictionary or an online app that we can use to help with translation so that we are going to a place that is right, perhaps not relying on some dodgy Google translation.
Yeah, Google is so dodgy. It's really unfortunate because you can tell when someone's tried to Google translate something, it's not good at all. So māoridictionary.co.nz is good, and having that app on your phone is handy. Another one is Paekupu, Paekupu, Paekupu.
Everybody's writing that down.
Everyone's writing that app down.
Yeah, so that has a lot more, I guess, scientific terms, quite a few technical terms. There's also Wakareo, but I believe you have to buy that one.
Yep.
Which, yeah, maybe you'd get a group subscription. But māoridictionary.co.nz is very good. It just doesn't give you full sentences. But Paekupu is definitely, it's quite good to do a cross-reference. So sometimes just because you don't understand exactly what you're looking for, you can get confused in the dictionaries.
Yeah.
So
I just want to add on that one, Stacey, that with all of these translation parts, always get it verified by one of the fluent speakers or the staff that can help you there. Because
do we have anyone who's paid, who's on staff to do translations?
Hold it. Rick.
This is ironic.
Yeah. Rick, am I paid to do that? Am I? No, I'm not paid to do it. We have one staff member that is supposed to do that. That's Fern Fito for those ones in the office. Tēnā koe. I was just making sure that Rick said that in public. I will help some people if I like you. I'm a caramel latte. What does Antisha have?
Long black with splash
Long
cream.
black. That's what we charge out. So yeah.
And as much as we joke, what we see a lot here in Auckland especially is that people are doing translations for free. I mean, I get a lot of people on social media saying, hey, how do you say this? And I get it. I don't want to discourage people in their interests, but you do, I think, have this fine line of should someone be doing it for free and extra above and beyond their job, or should we specifically value the skill of a translator particularly and make sure that that's their role and that's what they do. And do we, need staff that do that? Capacity is a massive issue. That's what we're finding. So if I can tell you a little bit, that we work with organisations like TVNZ, where my husband works on Te Karere, 4:00-ish most days. Depends upon whether there's a government update. So within there, we've worked with a lot of the people kaimahi who work at TVNZ and also presenters. You've probably seen people like Simon Dello have really advanced and progressed in terms of their reo Māori pronunciation and understanding. And I think one of the things that was important about that was that it was valued by management. There was investment made, there was time set aside, people can access it, they just have to walk downstairs to have our lessons. And yet some people will still fall off, because this is how we are as humans. We go, right, yes, one, I'm going to turn up. Week 1, I'm amazing, I'm going to be great. Week 2, oops, didn't do my homework, but oh well, it'll be fine. Week 3, oops, I've got another hui, I can't go. Week 4, oh, I didn't go last week and now I haven't done my homework, so I'll have to go to another hui. Week 5, oh well.
Oddly familiar.
It's oddly familiar down here with the real classes we produce. At
and
the
then you
Aotearoa.
see Fern walking by
Yeah.
you and you try to not make eye contact with her.
Yeah, some
Or-
of us are
and-
looking at that now. I see a couple.
The rest, and it's not fair for Fern, it's not her fault. It's just hard to keep on turning up. The other thing that we do is we keep on going to beginners lessons 3 times over. And that's because we want to be the best in the class. No one likes not feeling like they're good, especially you guys are leaders. This is the challenge that you're having to step into, is to show leadership in a way that will feel quite vulnerable.
Ka pai. Any other questions before we hand it back to the tuahine? Oh, okay. If you have any questions after this, too bad. Stacey,
You're
back
going
to
to
you.
have to pay for the answers.
You're going to pay for the answers.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And there's actually a lot of kōrero that's wrapped up in that, in terms of how we regard knowledge, how we pay for knowledge, who gets to be consultants, all of those types of things. That's a part of a wider kōrero, and something that I encourage you to wānanga, because it is important. You have ngai tahu in your name. When I see products and opportunities and things, businesses that are created by ngai tahu, you do have this expectation that other people don't. So I just want to acknowledge that that's an opportunity, but it's also a responsibility and a pressure. And when I go to say Shotover, Kimi Ako, I really appreciated the Māori stone there, the signage that you had, that was pretty good. And I think there's also more opportunity to bring in the visibility of Te Reo Māori, because Te Reo Māori isn't hugely visible in Queenstown in general. I mean, I know when I'm breaking lockdown rules and going to my second house in Wanaka, I just don't see as much Te Reo Māori signage as you perhaps do in other parts of the country. Nō reira he wero tēnei, this is a challenge and an opportunity. But I believe I'm nearly wrapped up, so I'll just show you my last slide, which is not wanting to, is it working for us? That's not happening at all, because it's just saying next, but it's not doing anything. Okay.
Ka mana te whakairo, tērā? Ai.
Ka pai. Ka mana te whakairo I te whāriki, ka mana te whāriki I te whakairo. So the prestige of the carving is elevated by the weaving, and the weaving's prestige is elevated by the carving. And this speaks to many things, but the beauty of whakatauki is that they're open to interpretation as well. So one of the meanings of this whakatauki is that whakairo are represented as men, and whāriki are represented as women. So the prestige of women is elevated by the prestige of men, and it's about working together. But when I think about it in the context of how you all work together and how you are leaders, you are po whakairo, so you are the carved post there, but in working with your people, if you elevate them, they elevate you, and that's how we achieve kotahitanga, or unity, in all of our mahi that we do. Nō reira, e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Thank you so much for your effort and in hearing your kōrero today. It's almost like I'm there, but not quite. Engari, e koingoa na te ngākau, I can't wait to be home. We have this beautiful word. It's called kano kanoa. Would you like to say that with me? Kano kanoa.
Kano kanoa.
Kano kanoa is to miss people who are absent friends, or perhaps those who we've lost. So ka titiro au kia koutou, ka kōrero tia te wai pounamu a ka kano kanoa. And so I can't wait to come home, but I felt like I've had a vision of home a little bit by being with you all today. So please enjoy the next couple of days, take the opportunity. As much as kaharoa jokes about being paid in kawhe, I will do anything for my iwi. I see in all of you the realization of the dreams of so many of our kaumatua, of my paua, of my taua. Many of them died without any of the benefits that we get now, but it was never about benefit for them. It was benefit for all of us. Kauri, e whai ake nei. So please know that you hold and you embody all of the dreams that were held, that were fought for. 27 months of a Waitangi tribunal claim, people being away from their whānau, people going to hui, people literally dying of stress, putting their houses on mortgages. All of those things are part of the purpose that you live today and what you bring to the table every single day. Nō reira, e mana ana te iwi i a koutou. You elevate the mana of our people, and you also have a huge responsibility, but I love seeing how you're wearing it and that you're stepping into it, that responsibility as an opportunity. Nō reira, mai te ngākau, tēnei te mihi mai oha kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe, Stacey, he mihi atu ki a koe hi tēnei ata, he mihi atu ki tō mātauranga Māori o te reo rangatira ki a koe, he pairawa atu tō kōrero ki a mātou hi tēnei wā o te hikui o tō reo i a tau, pairawa atu a te kōrero o te whakapapa o te tikanga o te reo Māori, he pairawa atu a te kōrero o tō tūpuna, o tō tūpuna e noho o te pite o te ao, he Little River, he pairawa atu tō kōrero, he tēnei wā, he aha, he taku wāwā tā ki a hau, he kōrero Māori o rite a kia kahurua. You know, one day, maybe. He pairawa atu, mihi māhana ki a koe e noho I roto e tāmaki, I roto tō te whari moi o tō kōtiro. Why is a 9-year-old girl's bedroom so tidy?
It's all fake. I just did it like this.
Oh, ka pai. He mihi māhana ki tō kōtiro, e te rā whānau o I tēnei e parairi, e tēnā koe o tō kōtiro. He pairawa atu o tō mātauranga ki a mātou katoa. Ho mai te paki koutou.
Kia ora koutou.
He waiata tautoko, he waiata te kinaki I tēnei wā, he manu tiria. E tū tātu.
Manu tiria, manu werohia, ki te po o te raka, katou re, katou mai te ruhi, e tau e koia. Koia, ko tā raurariki ki mai maui, e hara I te whitu, me te warue. E tau e koia. Kia ora e te tuahine. Me noho tātou, taki noho. Ina kei reira tonu koe, ai, kei koe nā tonu koe. Ei, tautoko katoa I ngā mihi o tōku tuakana nei, o te wairewa o ira kehu, ki a koe e taku tuahine. Ai, hoki ngā mahara ki a rātou ma, rātou te ki te atu nai e tonu nei. Heoi, he kite ngā kanohi hoki ngā mahara ki a taua ki takahanga e tawa wā, me tō ringa ki tō waha. Me a taua a maua anana ka mohio pai koe te rāmahi ki pōhehe tēnei whara ka taia te uru atu. Heoi, tāku tuhe, I was just saying, I'm whakamarama atu, ai, not, ai, ka pai. So one of the memories I have of Stacey when we were doing Te Reo Māori back in the 90s was a little gig. We were at a kura reo, a kia kurapa at Takahanga. We were young, very young. I think you would have been just 20 or so. I was 16, 17 at the time. And we had a skit night. And in the skit night, Stacey's group had a Bruce Forsyth's game. You know that one? Those ones who are really old? Kina koutou, ka pai, a lot of people nodding. The generation game. And Stacey was the assistant. And she comes out, it's all in Te Reo Māori, and she comes out and goes, ha, tēnei tākua, tēnei anō te mihi. And she goes, this is my skill. And she grabbed her fist and stuck it in her mouth. 17-year-old boy with another guy, we were both just, and we stood up and we were like, And then we saw each other and we cracked up laughing. She couldn't get her hand out of her mouth quick enough. So out of embarrassment though. Heoi, me mihi ka tika ki a koutou ko tō tira kai tērā whare kai tāmaki ki tō taiwa nei tino prata a manahau. Koutou te pane kiretanga, koutou te aurakitanga o tātou nei mana motuhake o te reo. Nā reira e Stacey. Ladies and gentlemen, a big massive tēnā koe, please. Big massive tēnā koe to Stacey. Go.
Tēnā koe.
Tēnā
Big
koe.
massive. You could have
Big
done
massive.
without that last story, but yes, this very hand. Kia ora koutou katoa. From my daughter's bedroom, just showing it's a real one, real environment. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Oh, kia ora.
Yay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, beautiful wahine.
Ai, he tino wahine tērā. Tino wahine.
Ai.
Yeah, you're going to stand up there. Ka pai. I got 2 mics.
You don't need 2 mics. You don't even need 1 mic. We're just about to head into a kai, but before we do, take a moment to think about what Stacey has just said to all of us. She's challenged us. She's asked us to be vulnerable. She's asked us to be leaders in te reo Māori. So in your personal lives,